All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Millennial Sales Podcast. It's your host, Tom Alemo. They call me Tommy Tahoe around these parts, and I'm excited to bring you episode 203 of the show. Real quick before we get into the goods for this week, as always, you got to know I put a lot of time and effort into this show. Not to pat myself on the back, but I do. And so there's no sponsors for this show right now. And what you can do to support is go to Apple Podcasts, and hit subscribe, leave a 5-star review, 5, nothing less. And it takes you about 60 seconds. It helps me grow the show. It helps me get better guests, create better content, all that good stuff. You can also find me on Spotify if that's where you're listening. I appreciate you. If you're watching me on YouTube, what's up? You can see me shouting out the Sales Hacker sweatshirt right now. So that's what you can do to help. You can find me at LinkedIn, Tom Alemo, or Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Tommy Tahoe. I love connecting with people, so hit me up. Let me know what you thought of the show. Would love to hear from you. With that aside, let's get into who I'm talking to today. Actually, a good friend of mine from years ago. Just so happens we're in, kind of playing in a similar world now. He's been at Drift for a few years running partnerships. My guy, Justin Bartels. We had a great conversation, and I've always thought very similarly, very like-mindedly to Justin. I've been wanting to have him on for a while, and now that I'm doing the Millennial Spotlights, this is the perfect time to break it out. So I'm excited to share my chat with him. Talked about a few things, right? We talked about sales, obviously, and the attitude that you have to have, and the mindset of really trying to put yourself in the customer's shoes. And really what Justin talks about is focusing on the process, not the outcome, right? So focusing on the things that actually lead to a successful call, but not worrying too much about your quota, about the deal, about closing it, so on and so forth, but really trying to focus on solving the problem at hand. We talked about partnerships, which is a world that I know nothing about. We haven't covered it too much on this podcast, so Justin's really educating me a little bit in that space, which is great. And then we even talk about some fitness. He's been a CrossFit instructor for years now. Talk about the mind-body connection, how he's getting on with it, even in COVID and in the frigid months of Boston right now, still getting after it. He's got 175,000 followers, I think, on TikTok for his fitness account, so you'll have to check him out. But that's it, man. It's going to be a great conversation. I hope you enjoy it. If you do, remember, you can hit me up and all that good stuff. But without further ado, let me bring you to my conversation with my good friend, JB Justin Bartels from Drift. Let's go. JB Justin Bartels, welcome to the show, my man. How we doing?
Good, Tom. How are you?
I'm doing great. Got a little Friday morning juice going here. I'm excited to chat with you, man.
Yeah, you're pulling the early morning hours today to get this thing done. Love it.
Dude, we got to get the ring light out here in front of the laptop because it is pitch black.
I know it's giving people a false sense of what day of time it is in San Francisco there.
Absolutely, man. Well, how's the new year kicking off for you?
It's good, a new full year ahead of us, a lot of time reflecting on what we learned in 2020. And I think we all learned a lot, that's for sure. So kind of excited to have a little recharge after the holiday and hit the ground running and implement some of the learnings and turn them into, experiments, see where we end up.
I love it, man. I love it. I want to, obviously we're going to spend some time talking about sales tips. One thing I wanted to bring up was you, I know that you're a CrossFit enthusiast. I think you're at some level of a trained, certified, teacher. So I'd love to just hear a little bit, if you don't mind chatting about like the kind of the mind body connection there, like how,
Oh yeah.
taking that time probably daily for you, or maybe multiple times a day to work out and get that going, like helps you to stay clear, to stay focused, and how that all works together for you.
For sure. And I'm definitely a morning workout person. I love to get it in out of the way before I work, and it brings me energy before I go into work. And I think it's nice to start the day with just taking care of yourself and taking care of your basic human needs, right? To move, to exercise, to improve your health. But over the years, I've found it's also kind of a form of meditation, right? And I'm sure, I think you meditate as well, if I've seen
Yep.
some of your content. But, if you think about a typical workout where you're doing a movement, you're focusing on your breathing, you're counting your reps. There's a lot of similarities between sitting down and doing like headspace or calm and, focusing on your breathing there and counting your reps and being present in the moment. So I found that, working out in the morning, not only takes care of your health aspects and takes care of your body, but also takes care of your mind and starts you off with maybe a different form of meditation, maybe a little less calm, but a lot of the same tenets, a lot of the same mechanisms that are bringing you into the present moment. So that's why I love it.
It's hard not to be present when you've got a bar, like when you're under the squat rack and like about to, go for a PR or something like that. I mean, if your mind is anywhere else, then you're not in a good spot.
For sure. Yeah, you're focusing, right? You're focusing on the present moment. You're focusing on generally under high stress or a little bit of stress there. And it's training that central governor to say, okay, there's a distraction or there's a thought coming in. I'm not going to pay attention to it. I'm going to focus on the thing I'm doing now. But
Absolutely.
what are you doing these days? Are you doing at home workouts because San Francisco's locked down, or running? What's your
We
focus?
Yeah, it's the home gym here.
Yeah.
Got a couple kettlebells and
Yep.
some bands, and that's about it. So I actually got shoulder surgery last year, so I was rehabbing for at PT for quite some time, and now I've got the green light. So
Awesome.
just kind of going through some different routines there. How about you? Are you locked down? Or you've got the home gym?
Yeah, I mean, Boston's been interesting. I think on par with San Francisco as far as gym lockdowns go. So we've been fortunate not have a super snowy winter. So I've actually been doing a lot of outdoor classes in the mornings,
Nice.
either coaching them or with our gym and taking them and just bundling up. And that's also nice, especially being kind of locked into my apartment all day. It's nice to get outside and start the day with a little bit of fresh air.
Totally, totally. And that's the beauty of CrossFit or, just working on your fitness in general. Like you get it in when and where and how you can do it. And you just kind of like make the best of wherever situation you're in.
Right. Step one, just move. That's the 80-20 of it. Just daily movement. That brings a majority of the benefits. So
I love it. I love it. All right, let's get into some sales stuff, man. So I know you're coming in here with a few different types of tips. So let's kick it off with whatever's top of mind for you.
yeah, one thing I've been really focused on this last year and looking at, and I think this is, this is pervasive throughout kind of sales methodology, and it's starting to become more and more prevalent. But one thing that's really helped me is looking at when I'm looking at a deal and looking at the forecast of that deal and the timeline of that deal, reminding myself that the 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 timeline, the how long the opportunity plays out, is dictated by how fast I can communicate the value and get my prospect to trust the value that I'm going to bring with my solution, whether it be a product or service. And I think there's the old school sales mindset is like, okay, we're going to forecast it by this date, and we're going to push it as hard as we can to get it in by that date. And yes, you have your levers to do that, and there is some incentives, and you got to play that game too. But I think taking a step back and saying like, okay, how do I answer all the questions, be as helpful as possible with this prospect, and really put myself in their shoes when evaluating my product or service, and identify all the roadblocks or all the steps in place, and questions they're going to have around, is this a product that I really think is going to bring my company value? Do I trust it, whether it be from what this salesperson or this sales team is telling me, or people in my network? And is that more beneficial, or is that potentially going to bring a better value than the other initiatives I'm evaluating, or the other technologies or other services I'm evaluating? And that flipping mindset of my opportunity age and how fast it moves is dictated by how helpful and how much I can communicate when it comes to the value, and getting them to trust the value of what a product or service is going to bring, is really flipped my view of forecasting, pipeline, moving deals along.
Yeah, it's funny when you focus on the deal size and when it's going to close and this and that, the things that are in Salesforce, like that's when deals don't go through. That's when
Right.
you probably have your worst months or quarters, at least for me. It's kind of just like, to make a sports reference, it's just like when you focus on, the actual process of like, working on your free throws or whatever, all of a sudden you start making more shots, but
Right.
if you just worry about whatever that percentage is, whatever the close date is, you can't just like fake urgency or you can't just make it up out of thin air. So it's kind of like focusing more on what you can control, and focusing on what the client actually wants and needs and whether you are the best fit,
Right.
and trying to have that conversation, but more so than what your quota is and what's going to be best for you.
Right. And proactively predicting what are going to be those steps. I think we look at the discovery conversation per se. Like as a sales rep, we want to get a lot of information about that account that we can't get from the outside. We understand that their initiatives, what they're going through, what challenges they're having. If I'm bombarding a ton of questions there, they're not getting anything out of that first conversation, right? I also have to put myself in their shoes and say, all right, they just booked a time with me to chat about a potential solution. There was something that hooked them in to get them to take that meeting. Now I better, make sure I clarify what are you looking to get out of this first conversation and deliver on that. Is it getting to a quick yes, no, I have a problem here, or there is a way your product or service can help me and being transparent about that? Or is it, hey, my friend recommended I take a look at you, but I know nothing about you. And, that's a kernel we can jump into. But I think, if you entering every conversation, just putting yourself in that customer's shoes and saying like, okay, how can I make this as beneficial as possible? And then, what is really the question that, I need to get answered for them today is change my game. And I think basic blocking and tackling, but always good to be reminded of that.
Yeah, I mean, how easy is it to just get into the call and you start running discovery or getting into your pitch or your demo, and like then it's 27 minutes into the call, and then you're like, and they're like, oh, I was really hoping to get this out of it, but I have a hard stop and now I have to jump. And so
Yeah, right.
it's just the blocking and tackling, like you said, the fundamentals, know
Right.
why they're on the call, what they want to get out of it, their questions, their history, all that stuff, so that you can make it as pertinent as possible. I love
For
it.
sure, for sure. And then later on the process, right? Security and legal and procurement. A lot of times that's a pain in our side and it's a laborious process. But what that company has those processes in place for a reason. What are those reasons? It's probably to mitigate risk. It's probably to make sure that this is a good contract that, they're not going to get burned on if things go sideways. And so always reminding yourself like, okay, if I'm dealing with procurement, legal, security, they have their own needs. What are they looking to
Yeah.
get out of this call? I've maybe that point have delivered on what my champion in a different business unit is looking for, but legal has their own concerns, security has their own concerns, everyone in the buying process has that. So I think even though you get later in the deal, it's always good to check on that. Like, yes, we've uncovered the business case, we think there's value, my prospect thinks there's value, they trust that it's going to be bring them value, and more so than the other initiatives they could be going through. But now we got these new group of people with their own wants and needs. They're trying to get promoted, they're not trying to get fired, they're trying to make their life easy. What do they need, and how can I help them do that too?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's a huge point too. It's like we also have the tendency to maybe think about these people as they're just names, or they're just people on a Zoom screen or an email address, but they do have those wants and needs to get promoted or
Yeah.
whatever it might be, make more money or look good for their boss. So again, trying to always play into those, be mindful of the psychological factors at hand there.
Right.
I love it. All right, so that's one. I think you got three for us. So
Yeah.
what's number two you got?
The second, of course, being in alliances and partnerships and business development. If you're, I see this a lot with newer reps, and I was this way too. Luckily, I started in a very partner focused organization and saw the value that partners can bring. But if you've never, worked a cycle with a partner before or brought a partner in to help with your deal, and your company has a partner team, set some coffee with that alliance manager, figure out, okay, how can you help me, how can I help you, what are your goals? Because I see this a lot with junior reps. They want to control everything, right, in the deal cycle. And a partner coming in, or bringing in a partner or finding out about a partner later on in the sales cycle is risk to them, because they're like, it's an unknown variable, I don't know how to do this, I just want to focus on working my prospect and just that. But partners can really accelerate deals. And you see this as you move up into the enterprise, as these deals get bigger, you have to bring the ecosystem together around to get this deal done. So my second recommendation and tip would be like, if you're new and you've never worked with a partner and your company has a partner organization, set some time with the alliance manager that aligns with your BU or aligns with your group, and say, hey, like, what do you have to offer? How can you help me accelerate my deals or get into new accounts? How can I help you do what you do? Oftentimes you'll find there's synergy there, right? My goal is to bring in as many new accounts from my partners and accelerate deals. That also aligns with their goals. Awesome, cool. So now we have a partnership here. And then, being very clear about, okay, what are the best practices in bringing in partners, or when not to bring in partners, or how to use them. I'd say, pick a deal or pick some time with your alliance manager, have some coffee, discuss your pipeline and your targets, and try it out, see how it goes. And I think you'll find that, wow, partners can bring a lot of value if you've got a great partner organization.
And is there something in particular about the partner side that is more interesting to you than maybe being a regular AE that's just hunting down net new business? Is that just like the world you happen to get into, or is there something in particular about it that you enjoy? Is it like that dynamic where you're working with all these different people and it's kind of a team game, or
Yeah,
explain that to me?
there's a couple things I love about it. I love the scale of it, right? Where it's, you're not trying to just hit your number in your patch in your territory with the targets you have. You're kind of trying to lift the boat 5% across the board, or lift the tide 5% for all boats across the board. And in my opinion, it's the closest thing to running a company while working for another company, because especially I'm in a tech alliances role. I have to be interfacing and working with product and integrations and customer support to say, like, all right, where do we have gaps in our roadmap or gaps in the vision we're trying to deliver with our product that maybe a partner can help us in the short term, long term, or make sure, help us renew and get more value out of that account. So I have to always kind of be in touch with that. And then of course, being a sales driven role, I have to know my sellers, I have to know their targets, I have to know their challenges, whether it be competition or time to get that deal done, and help them out and say, okay, I know your challenge is over here. Maybe there's a partner over here that can help me with that. And then, of course, on the acquisition side, getting into new accounts, marketing, is there a joint story we can tell with a partner that's really going to complement what we're trying to do and what the partner's trying to do, and solve something big for a potential customer that doesn't know anything about us and isn't in our sphere of our brand sphere right now. So it's fun that you have your fingers in kind of everything, and you get to say, all right, I own this, this integration and this partnership or this collaboration, and I get to work across the entire company and kind of be CEO of that own little thing.
Yeah, yeah, that is cool. I've never done anything from a partnership perspective, but I like the sound of, one of the reasons that, of roles that I've liked versus ones that I haven't is like when you do have different stakeholders across the company that you're working with, sales, SDR, marketing, customer success, some of these different folks. When it's just you out there and like the only thing on your mind is like just selling all day long, and I've
Yeah,
had roles like that too. It's hard to see the bigger picture. It's hard to think about more than just your quota. I think it becomes a lot more fun when you start to see the different workings of the company, and you're helping to influence maybe the product direction, or you're helping to collaborate with the marketing folks or whatever it might be. So I think
right.
just getting that total involvement helps to, I think, make it more of a satisfying job.
For sure, for sure. And lean on this. Like if you're doing your
Yeah.
QBRs and you're recognizing, man, I'm getting beat down by this competitor all the time. They're winning, beating me out in deals. That's a great problem to surface to your leadership and to surface to product and surface to the other groups within your business, because you can make that problem in a sense somebody else's problem, or say, like, look, if I'm getting beat down, I'm probably not alone. you know if our competitors beating us because they have this product or feature or functionality or this integration, is it potential to get on the roadmap so that we're neck and neck with them, and now we can win out on other features or other promises or other aspects of value. So that's I if you're a junior rep and you're thinking, man, I'm in it alone, I'm getting beat up, like this is a common problem, like share it with your manager, share it with other groups, so you can help you out with that problem. Because once you move up, I think that the successful people that are moving up realize it's so much more of a team sell, so much more of just bringing in the right person to handle that objection or that challenge and maybe work on a solution in a different way.
Yeah, and I think especially for if you're at a company that's growing, you want people. Leadership wants people that can help to build, and they can help to fix problems. They can help to see and address those. Right? They don't just want a foot soldier that has the quota and wants to hit it. So if you are thinking about things that are outside of just your day to day, and you're thinking about solutions to problems, that's someone that the company wants to keep and wants to,
For sure,
they want to foster that. So,
for sure.
all right, what's number three for us, JB?
So I think number three, reflecting on any success I've had, if I've had success, has been what I call career stacking. And I don't hear enough people talking about this, like as far as like career trajectory growth goes. But I don't know, I've always sold and marketed, selling and marketing services to sellers and marketers. And being young in my career, that has allowed me to spend a lot of time thinking about a narrow set of challenges and understand everything around those challenges pretty well. And I'd say if you're a seller, or if you're no matter what the role, I guess is predominantly maybe a sales focused group. Like I think thinking about, okay, what can I sell or what can I market Or can I work for a company that delivers a product service that I understand a lot about and can empathize with the person that's buying it is huge, right? And I think, that's why I do a lot of the side hustle stuff with like TikTok is like we sell to marketers and sellers. I want to understand marketers really well. There's a point where I realized I haven't really built an audience and like, built like marketed something of my own and understood the challenges of that, the obstacles, how to scale it, how to do it right, where to go wrong. And I implore you to just to try and do that. Try and put yourself in the shoes of whoever you're trying to sell or market to at the end of the day. And if you can stack that in your career early on, where you're getting into like Tom here at Gong, he's selling to sellers. Like I'm sure you can empathize with them on a whole nother level, right? Now that
Yeah.
you're a seller at a selling or in a selling organization selling a selling product to sellers, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I was actually talking with Scott Barker at Outreach about this, on the podcast a little bit ago too. Of like, there's that compound interest, right? Because if you like you're saying, you're selling to sales and marketing people at one company, and then you come over to Drift. Some of those relate. Not only some of the relationships stay with you and they grow, the knowledge continues to grow, the
Right.
expertise, all of these different things, right? So then after so many years, we're pretty still in the adolescent,
Yeah.
baby part of our career,
Yeah.
that can really grow and compound on itself. So then at some point, you are the person that knows everything or a lot of things and knows a lot of people in the industry, and that only will make your job easier, 10 years from now, whatever it is that you decide to do. So I think that's a really smart idea. Like, pick what that thing is, and if it's not your first job, then that's okay. You might not get lucky and pick, your first job in an industry you love, but find what that thing is and then really kind of dive deep into it. Understand the process, understand the market, the people, the technologies, and I think that pays a lot of dividends.
Right. As you and I know, like if you're gonna be selling something, you're gonna be talking about it all day long. So you better love talking about it, right? And you better love getting interested in it and how it helps people and the people it's trying to help. Because if you don't have that curiosity and that drive to learn about those challenges and problems, I mean, you're gonna be fighting that internal friction a lot.
I think that's amazing career advice. And can we just, before we wrap up, give a little
Yeah.
love? I wasn't going to bring it up. You brought up the TikTok. How many followers do you have nowadays?
Oh, we have 175K on TikTok.
Dude, I post some of the like these clips from the podcast on TikTok, and I've got about 12 followers. And you sent me a message one day, and you're like, "Hey, just throwing it out there. I've got like 100,000. So if you need any help, let me know."
I don't know if I said that. That makes me sound a little arrogant, but
No, I'm just
it's
kidding.
definitely its own platform with its own strategy. And it's what's cool about it is it's a bit democratic in that since it's all focused around content recommendation and the algorithm, like the algorithm can take, as long as it's really good content, you can build an audience really fast. And so you find these really interesting people from all these different walks of life that have a very just fascinating life, and they're documenting it, and they're gaining massive followings. Whereas on other platforms, they may not have built those followings because they don't have access to the right people. They're not getting promoted by the right third party resources to build a following on like an Instagram, or Snapchat or a Facebook. That's why I really like TikTok. Is like if you have something interesting to say or really high quality content or like a really fascinating part of life, the algorithm will take care of it and make sure it gets exposed to the right people.
I love it. Yeah, I've got a friend that like quit his job and moved to Bali, and he's got the same thing as you.
Yeah.
He's just growing; it's through the roof. So I appreciate it, man. This was great 3 tips for people, both from a sales, a partnership, and a career perspective. Maybe just as we wrap up, any last thoughts that you have, and where folks can reach out to you?
Yeah, find me on LinkedIn, Justin Bartels. I work at Drift. So connect with me on LinkedIn. Love connecting with folks on LinkedIn and sharing tips, especially if you're in alliances and business development right now. That's there's a lot of sales and marketing content out there, but there's not a ton for partnerships and alliances. It's growing. So if you're in those roles and you want to connect and share best practices on what's working for you, love to do it because it's kind of early stage in its maturity. And then we'd actually just joined as a co-host on a partnerships podcast called Partner Up. So
Let's go.
if you're in the partnership space, you want to learn, we're interviewing people who have done it before, who've built some amazing partner programs and ecosystems. So find us. You can just simply search Google Google search Partner Up podcast and you'll find it.
Awesome, man. I love
Yeah.
it. I love it. I love you getting into the podcast game.
Yeah, we're good. It's all about content, right? You're either consuming it or you're creating it these days.
I love it. I love it. All right, JB, I appreciate you coming on the show, everyone. Make sure to check out the Partner Up podcast. Hit him up on LinkedIn. He's a great resource and puts out some great content. And check him out on TikTok,
There we go.
too.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks for
All
having me.
right. Yeah. See ya. All right. Thanks for listening to that episode of the Millennial Sales Podcast. Again, the one thing you can do, head over to Apple and give us a 5-star review. That's what helps us grow this show. Otherwise, hit me up on social media, Tommy Tahoe on YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram, Tom Malema on LinkedIn. I'd love to hear from you. Otherwise, have a great February. Peace.